Welcome to today's third session. The title of the next presentation is Rational Social Trust. My Tuomela, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you to Peter for inviting me to give a talk. Before I show any other slides, I will say a few words. People would wonder what I do usually, but usually I work with Raimo on his topics, and maybe more and more throughout the years. And then at some point I started to do something of my own, which was something I thought was useful for our research group in collective intentionality, because we had the commitment, and at that time I thought that trust would be something that is sort of natural to go on with trust. And so this is what I then worked with for very many years, before I understood myself what it was all about. And I was not ready to give it to Raimo and say, let's do something together, because now I know what trust is, because I said, no, I don't know what trust is. I need more time, and I need more time. And so, but he got me into writing articles anyway, because he was persistent with him. So one article came luckily very late, called Cooperation and Trust, that I did with Raimo. And I was sort of on the border of being ready to say something practical, because my quest was to find out what is trust really, what is it all about, and how could you analyze it. And so I ended up with something that developed in the very end. So when I also wrote articles on a collective trusts another collective, and so I just sort of put some more stuff into here, and then it became the collective that was the truster, and the collective was the trustee. But the main point was that in the very end, I finally realized what was missing in my account, and I finally got it to sort of say, click, now it's there, and I was really proud of it. And then I thought, I never answered the question. People always ask, well, so when should I trust then people? Now you can tell me, when should I trust people and when should I not trust people? I said, I'm sorry, but I didn't do that. I didn't do that at all. I only wanted to say what trust is. And only this year I realized that, I already answered the question when to trust people or when not to trust people, because it has been here all the time. And I didn't notice it. So what I'm trying to say about trust here is actually also then an answer about when to trust people, which I didn't realize. Okay, so I'll go backwards and say, I specify exactly what I'm going to talk about, because I don't want to talk about general stuff. I talk about trust as a very specific matter. Rational social trust, which is a person's subjectively rational trust. I'm not going to into what I mean by subjectively rational. In another person, vis-a-vis his performance of an action. So not trust in general, but always vis-a-vis an action, seen from a first-person point of view. So there are many people who write about the third-person point of view of trust, but I don't. So it's a conceptual and theoretical analysis understood along the lines of reflective equilibrium, and the account of rational social normative trust is argued to be genuine trust, because that's what I wanted to know, what is genuine trust, to be kept apart from predictive trust. And this is what most people call trust, what I call its own, I say it's only predictive trust. But that I was just sort of annoyed by people calling what I call predictive trust only. They call that trust everywhere. They say this is trust. And also often in economics they speak of predictive trust or even predictions when they actually call it trust. Okay, so that's why sort of my motive of trying to get in there and sort things out. And so I argue that genuine trust is embedded in a relationship of mutual respect for the rights of the other party. There will be more about this, but this is sort of the basic. And this relationship is the growing site for trust, a causal and conceptual ground, but it is not taken as a reason for trusting, as in a case of predictive trust. So if I would say that I trust and I take this relationship as the reason for trusting, then it would be just predictive trust. So this is something that grows in that relationship, and that is why I trust. It's a causal reason and not taken as a reason. Okay. So relevant themes such as risk decision are mentioned, but maybe not discussed here, and certainly not rationality, control, and cooperation, because there's not time. And I also mentioned that you could apply this to collectives, and then you need to add something so that you get a collective that can act. If you have that kind of collective that you claim that can act as a collective, then you could use also this account. Okay, so trust plays a crucial role in social life, and especially in cooperation, and the whole sphere of the social actually rests on people being together, doing things together. And this is very difficult if you can't trust the people you are together with. So they would have to rely on rules and sanctions alone. Understanding what social trust is and what it is not is the starting point for understanding what it takes to be trusted and to trust others. So I will present an analysis of social trust that distinguishes social normative or genuine trust from predictive trust. A rule of thumb is that when trust is betrayed, the truster had genuine trust. Her trust was justified, but the trustee did not respect her rights, although he had led her to believe so, that these are her rights. They had a relationship of mutual respect for specific rights. However, when the trustor is mistaken in her trust for the reason that her predictions were poor, then she is to blame. She had predictive trust based on some beliefs about the trustee. In genuine trust, the betrayed truster rightfully blames the trustee, unless the truster was mistaken about there being a mutual understanding about respect for certain rights after all. Maybe there was no such thing between them. In predictive trust, the disappointed truster makes the wrong predictions and has herself to blame. Of course, she could accuse the trustee of deception if he deliberately gave her the false impression. Misplaced trust is an ambiguous term, as it can mean betrayed, justified, genuine trust, mistaken, unjustified, genuine trust, or mistaken, predictive trust. So, social trust is trust between people or groups that can function as agents. Trust is an attitude and or feeling that people have when they feel at peace and have an accepting attitude about being dependent on another person for an action. This is how I try to see it. It could be all of this depending on who is writing the paper, and I'm not very specific about if you call it attitude or feeling or whatever, but in the end I will give you my exact account of trust. So this is sort of, I'm trying to warm you up for what trust is and what it isn't, just so you can see that it is really a mess out there. When people speak of trust, it can be anything. The trustee should be aware of the dependence and have a choice to either accommodate the truster or let him down. If he's not even aware of the dependence, then he just goes on doing whatever he was doing, and then the other one can sort of ride on that horse without knowing if he could be trusted or not. So the truster may have no other option than to trust, but he may still have genuine trust in the other person. So the truster might still genuinely trust the other person, although that first person doesn't even know that he's trusted, but then it's not a real trust relationship if the other one is not aware. So, to trust someone for buying the tickets, for instance, may mean many things. It may mean to have social normative, genuine trust, or to have predictive trust in him, or it may mean to decide to depend on or just depend on, rely on him based on trust or prediction even. So people speak sloppily about these things. They can say, I depend on you, I rely on you, I decide to depend on you, I trust you, and meaning any kinds of all of these things. They might even just predict that the other one person will buy the tickets and just sloppily say, I trust that he will have the tickets. without really meaning that they trust. In everyday speech, the distinction between the meaning of words often become blurred. To depend, rely on someone for something, or to decide to do so based on a prediction of his future favorable behavior, or on trusting him, deserve to be kept apart from trusting, having an attitude or feeling of trust. So in trusting someone with buying the tickets, and after that depending, relying on him, does not, but may entail trust. The person is made aware of what is expected of him, and that people depend on him. In trusting involves decision, just like depending and relying may do. Thus, I claim that the notion of trust is useful for two kinds of mental states. I will call them social normative genuine trust based on a belief of a relationship of mutual respect for rights, and predictive trust based on beliefs of having sufficient reasons. Genuine trust may be betrayed by the trustee, while predictive trust cannot be betrayed. It is the truster who made the wrong prediction, leading him into having a trusting attitude, and perhaps into the state of relying on another person, or to decide to rely on him. I will give you examples in a moment. This latter kind of trust is further stretched in the context of economics into a mere prediction. The truster calculates the probability for an action to take place, and then I can read, and he decides to trust and has various degrees of trust. The trustee might not even be aware of that someone is counting on his action. In predictive trust, the attitude of trust is had without a decision, so you fall into predictive trust just like you fall into love or fall into genuine trust. So when you decide to trust, then it's just a prediction, according to me. And so the truster can either trust as a consequence of one's own calculations, or then not trust at all in this case of prediction. And now we have an example that suits both genuine trust and predictive trust. So when John finds himself relying on Mary, or decides to rely on her for acting on a matter of his concern, without fear of being disappointed, he may be said to trust Mary and rely on her vis-a-vis the action. He believes that Mary is aware of his dependence and that she has a choice to let him down. John may have no options, but still trusts her. Alternatively, he may just trust her for potentially acting on the matter and still decide not to rely on her because he chooses to act himself this time. So social normative or genuine trust does not only involve that the truster is at peace with being dependent on the trustee and all the beliefs of predictive trust, but it also involves the truster's belief of a mutually acknowledged right to be accommodated in a specific case. So this is now a very important difference between these two. So in the example of John's belief of such an acknowledged right, it's not the reason for his expectation to be accommodated by Mary, but this is why he expects this of Mary, that they do have this relationship of mutual respect. So if he now feels betrayed in his trust, then he is really betrayed if Mary does not perform the action. So there's a big difference between taking something as a reason for believing something and call it predictive trust, and trusting someone and having that relationship of mutual respect for the other's right as a causal reason, and say that is why I trust her, because I am in that relationship with that person. So this is sort of the springing difference. I'll give you more examples of the most typical way of using the word trust for predictive trust. More specifically, the belief of the right goes as follows. John believes that Mary and he have a relationship of mutual respect for certain rights, a belief that is based on his experience of having certain rights and her having certain other rights that are respected. If the present expected action is not among the actions that he has a right to expect, he is not justified in having genuine trust in Mary. When John's genuine trust is justified and he is not mistaken about what his respected rights are, Mary betrays his trust if she does not accommodate him. The truster's belief of the relationship of mutual respect for rights is not just another reason for predictive trust. It is why he trusts, a causal reason, the backbone of genuine trust. When people have predicted trust in each other, they just count on each other to behave in the desired way, having good reasons to expect this. So this is my most important example. Mary trusts that John will buy her a necklace because she believes he's in love, and this is very, very typical. I trust that he will buy me that necklace, and they say, why do you do that? Well, because I think he's in love with me, or something like that. And so this is sort of the signal that she takes this as a reason, because she thinks that the reason is that he loves me, and so he's going to buy me that necklace, and so this is not any better. Someone on one trip said that why is not love enough? He was working on love. Why is not love enough for this? I say it's no. It's just one of those reasons. She trusts the priest to give her wallet back because she believes he is honest. It's not much more than people have all kinds of theories about what other people will do. The priest will probably be honest, and my husband will buy me a necklace because he loves me, and so on. And this doesn't make it any better that you put the word love in there. So to me, genuine trust is much more than have a reason for believing something and falling into trust. So I don't say that they decided to trust in predictive trust. They really have it. It's not that I decide to have it, I just trust in predictive trust. So that's the difference between prediction and trust. Okay, so when people have reasons to believe that they have rights, but they lack the belief that these are acknowledged in a relationship of mutual respect for rights, they may do no more than count on that the trustee will act in accordance with the rights on the basis of his moral character or some expected sanctions. Mary has predictive trust in John concerning his non-violent behavior, believing that he will follow the law. But later she has genuine trust in him vis-a-vis this same matter when she believes that they have a relationship of mutual respect for certain rights, including the right to be treated without violence. So now she can have genuine trust. But if she would say, I now have genuine trust in him that he will not hit me because he loves me, that would still have been predictive trust, because that would just be that she takes his love to be a reason for not being hit. But if they have this mutual respect for rights relationship, and I will explain more about it when we come a bit further, what I really put in this relationship. So, genuine trust is like a gift that has to be accepted by the trustee. It's an honor to be offered someone's trust, but as the gift of trust involves a demand on the trustee, he has to accept this demand. If Mary trusts John to come home early, she may have predictive trust in him, based on good reasons. For her to have genuine trust in John, she must believe that they have a relationship of mutual respect for rights. Only if it's her right, she rightfully believes that he has accepted this, she can blame him for betrayal if he comes late. If trust does not involve the option of betrayal, it is not genuine trust. Of course, Mary may be wrong in her beliefs, based on her subjective experiences about their mutual understanding of their Charter of Rights. In that case, she has misplaced genuine trust in the sense of unjustified genuine trust. Only justified genuine trust may be betrayed. So, genuine trust is not restricted to personal relationships. This is a question I often get, that, well, but this is just in friendships. I don't think it is so. Two businessmen may have predictive trust in each other that will develop into genuine trust through time. When people respect each other's rights for instrumental reasons, one could call it thin genuine trust. In thick genuine trust, a person's rights are respected for intrinsic reasons. He ought to have what is his right to have. Basic trust could be a child's default position when cared for. Some adults preserve their basic trust for people to a larger extent than others. They may fare poorly in bad company, but on the other hand, a trusting attitude invites people to be fair. General trust would again be trust in someone's fairness concerning a wide range of matters. Rightful demands will be accommodated. People may have general predictive trust in a priest based on his position, and genuine trust in a friend based on a relationship of mutual respect for a wide range of rights. I was once trying to see if the golden rule would play a role here, but I never got very far here. I was trying to give reasons for having, what would those rights be so that it would be a stable relation. And I was picturing all these unstable relations where maybe a husband and a wife, the husband has very many rights and the wife has very few rights, and it works, but would it be very stable? Or what if she's very disappointed? Or what if the rights are very bad for you, And what about two alcoholics having genuine trust, that they will get alcohol to each other when the other one is too sleepy to get up from bed, or harmful things. And I was thinking all kinds of exciting scenarios that need to be solved, like how localized. I was thinking of countries where women have no rights, and how would this trust account fare in that kind of context? Could it be sort of localized to a certain culture? Well, but I never finished those things. Okay, so trust has been studied as commitment, a relationship, an attitude, an emotion, or a mixed case, a belief with an affective component. Predictive reliance on and prediction of a person's behavior allow for depending on side effects of his action. So that's no good if you just predict. I call it predictive reliance, or then mere prediction. Trusting requires a context. When the trustee is believed to be aware of the truster's wish to be potentially dependent on the trustee. Someone tried to suggest that you can trust although the other one is not aware of that someone is trusted on you, but I don't agree. And to be free to choose to take the truster's wish into account. Also, if you're not free, you're bound to do certain things, and people just hang on and say, I trust him. But he could not have even had a choice to do other things. I don't think that is trust either. Or then you have to be free also to let him down if you don't have a choice to say I don't accommodate him. Okay, so the belief of a person's trustworthiness is a result of predictive trust or genuine trust, or just a judgment preceding predictive trust. In the context of prediction, it is the result of an evaluation before decision to depend on the person. So that's also a term that can be used in so many ways. Trusting involves risks, but only seen from a third-person point of view. When a person trusts, he may be aware of the third-person point of view, but he does not deem it risky, or else he would not trust. This holds both for predictive trust and social normative trust, two main kinds of trust that one does not decide to have, but one just falls into, like falling in love. Risk calculations belong to predictions, and so does degrees of trust. People may decide to depend or rely on others on the basis of their predictions. So, a lot of this text is in the Encyclopedia of Philosophy and the Social Sciences, Byron Caldy's editor. And here is the account of trust, finally. So I start with the trust context. I don't have time to argue for all of these clauses, but I'll just try to say something about the main clause, about the relationship of mutual respect. So first we have the trust context that needs to be in place. The following conditions are necessary and jointly sufficient for a context. Why the trust context in which A can rationally trust B that he will perform a specific action X. A wants B to perform X, an action that A does not intend to perform himself. A thus believes that he is concerned with B's performing X, and believes that he is in that sense dependent on B's action. So this want and being concerned and dependent are very general terms for that it somehow concerns him, that he feels that it would be nice that the other one would be doing this. It doesn't say that I couldn't do it myself, but there is this kind of connection. Then A has a belief about B's belief of the dependence, so you need to sort of be aware of that the other one is aware of that you are now going to make yourself dependent. And A believes that his dependence is relevant to B, that the dependence is relevant to B means here that B is free to let A's dependence play a role in his decision making, and that B takes A's dependence into account in his actions. All these beliefs may be dispositions to have such beliefs, and they are based on at least subjectively rational reasons or dispositions to have such. And the account in itself have these conditions: intention condition, ability condition, goodwill condition, a positive feeling and then an accepting attitude. So intention condition A expects or has the disposition to expect that B intends to perform X. The expectation is based on at least subjectively rational reasons or dispositions to have such. Ability condition A expects or has the disposition to expect that it is possible for B to perform X, that the internal and external opportunities for B's action obtain. The expectation is based on at least subjectively rational reasons or dispositions to have such. And then the important clause, goodwill condition. A expects or has the disposition to expect that B will intentionally act with goodwill, including goodwill toward A. When performing X with goodwill would mean that he expects to be accommodated by B. A believes or has the disposition to believe that due to their relationship of mutual respect, he is entitled to expect this of B on social normative or quasi-moral grounds, and that B acts at least in part because A has this right. These expectations or dispositions are based on at least subjectively rational reasons or dispositions to have such. The reasons for A's expectation in Y may be partly the same as here. So here, there is the relationship of mutual respect, which I will tell you more about. What this means and what kinds of rights there are and how do they know about it. So on these grounds, A has a positive feeling. This feeling is or at least includes the feeling of being comfortable about his dependence on B for performing X. So it sort of settles A down, that this is nothing to think about, it's all clear. On these grounds, A has an accepting attitude vis-a-vis his position of dependence on B for performing X. This attitude is non-intentionally acquired. So he knows that he will fare well here depending on that person. It's not difficult to argue for the context beliefs of the account, nor for the first two or the fourth and fifth clauses of the account. I will focus on the third belief that I call the goodwill belief. The first part of it is quite evident, that we expect those we trust to act with goodwill toward us vis-a-vis the action in question. I claim that this expectation is grounded in the parties' relationship of mutual respect for each other's rights. The reason why, not the reason for, he will do this to gratify me should not be based on reasons like he loves me, he promised, he's a good person. In genuine trust, that is what I call predictive trust, not genuine trust. That he will do this for me is based in genuine trust on what my rights are in our relationship. That is why he does it. I trust him here if it's my right to have it. We have our own charter of rights that we mutually recognize. And this charter is a result of confirming experiences through time. Thus we trust when we expect what we have a right to expect. Other expectations are based on trust as a prediction that we're convinced of. So here I got this, I realized today when we heard about this awareness that we share, that this might be exactly what I meant here. So how do they know what the Charter of Right is? Well, it has been built up through time. So you cannot say that he promised or it was 19-something hundred that he said so, but it's something that is built up. This is our room together, and in this room, sort of piled up with these experiences of okay, that was not my right, that is my right. Okay, yes, it's my right. Yes, it's the same thing last week, next month, next year. Or these don't seem to be my rights. I'm not giving you very many examples because my examples have been very dull, like I have a right to borrow Raimo's books and he has a right to borrow my records or something, you know, but it could be much more exciting things. And they are all these things there in that room. And if someone asks us, did you agree about, did he promise? Well, not really. Now, how do you know? Well, we just know. Because it's the experience, the lived life together. So this is maybe in the room of our mutual awareness then. Okay, so that is the relationship of mutual respect for rights that I want to leave with you, because that sort of explains the difference between that I trust my husband to give me a golden necklace because he loves me. I think it's such a good counterexample, because that is clearly my prediction, that I think this because that, and I think that because that, and I think. But here is something that grows throughout time between people, and even if these are not good friends, just business partners, it also grows through time, because they will have tested each other for so and so long. Then you could ask, how long does it take to get a charter of rights, and how long does it take before you have developed genuine trust, and so on. But I don't think that people really can say how long it takes. It's more like those two people know how long it takes, but you cannot say that it always takes, more than so and so many months or years or something. And of course, trust can be broken, I can be betrayed always. In any kind of trust relationship, you may be betrayed. So thank you.